long story short, went out with this girl. And on the first date, I've told the story a lot, but within, I don't know, an hour of going back and forth and getting to know each other, she was like, I don't need to be rude, but I need to check the score of the NBA finals. And I was like, wow, that is nuts. And I knew, I don't want to say I knew right then and there, but I was like, all right, this girl's pretty awesome. And 2 dates, 3 dates, 4 dates, I realized that she is someone special, and she ended up becoming my wife. So just by talking to, my friend on the street, saying yes to a matchmaker that was definitely outside my comfort zone, really that moment, that changed my life.
Welcome to the Impact Effect podcast. We have another amazing guest on the show, Brian Rappaport. And dude, he is doing some really cool stuff. Works with Skims, Gemini, HubSpot, Olipop. He's the CEO and founder of Quan Media. And he's not just doing like social media and this and that. He's doing all types of media. Billboards, out of home, and he clearly is working with some of the best organizations. So we're going to have an amazing conversation today. Please help me welcome Brian to the Impact Effect podcast.
Thanks so much for having me, Jim. I'm really excited to be here, excited to share more about my career, my journey, and my life.
Let's go, man. I'm fired up. All right. So every single episode, we ask every guest the same question to kick things off. What is the most impactful moment in your life that changed everything for the future?
Yeah, I guess there's one personal, one professional, and I'll start with the personal one, right? I was kind of the last of my friends to meet somebody, to fall in love, to find a significant other, and I just never cared. I was always like, when it happens, it happens. I was never on a timeline. I did not put myself up against my friends or my family. It was when it happened, it was going to happen. And I'm always somebody that, like, you have to give everything a little bit of a chance. You got to say yes and try new things, with the exception of seafood. I don't do that. But I was walking on the street in the Upper East Side of Manhattan in May of 2018, and I bumped into an old college friend, and she's loud and fun and enthusiastic. And she's like, Rappy, which is like one of my nicknames. Like, are you seeing anybody? And I'm like, no, I'm not at all. She's like, I want to set you up with my best friend. She's a matchmaker. She's going to set you up with a bunch of women. And I was kind of like, no, I'm not paying for a matchmaker. I'm on every app. I don't need this. She's like, no. Don't worry about paying. Like, she needs some really good guys. And I said, all right, you know what? I'll go meet her. And I went and had breakfast with this matchmaker. She was fantastic. She's a good friend to this day. And she basically is like, what are you looking for in a relationship? And I had just gotten out of a long-term relationship. It just didn't work out. And I told her what I wanted in a significant other. And she's like, I'm going to set you up with my concierge. This matchmaker is pretty well known. She had a show on Bravo. She's been in the New York Post. And I said, all right, great. And her concierge emails me a whole questionnaire. I fill it out, a lot of questions. And basically their whole thing is they'll set you up on dates. You don't really see a picture of the person. You just get a bio. You say yes, and they pick a place that's mutually in the middle of where you both live. They make the reservation. You show up, you go out. And I just said, set me up on a bunch of dates in 1 week. I don't really care. And I went on one date. It was fine. Didn't want a second. Went on a second date. It was fine. Didn't want a second. Nothing bad. Just, you kind of know at that point. And finally, the matchmaker texts me, and she's like, hey, Brian, I have a great girl for you. She just moved to New York from Florida. She's from Long Island. Just recently divorced, no children, big into family, big into just having a good time. Would you go out with her? And I was like, sure, why not? She lived 2 blocks away from me, I found out. And long story short, went out with this girl. And on the first date, I've told the story a lot, but within, I don't know, an hour of going back and forth and getting to know each other, she was like, I don't need to be rude, but I need to check the score of the NBA finals. And I was like, wow, that is nuts. And I knew, I don't want to say I knew right then and there, but I was like, all right, this girl's pretty awesome. And 2 dates, 3 dates, 4 dates, I realized that she is someone special, and she ended up becoming my wife. So just by talking to, my friend on the street, saying yes to a matchmaker that was definitely outside my comfort zone, really that moment, that changed my life. I mean, I couldn't envision anyone else that would have been the right fit for me. My wife is just the perfect complement to me. She loves me for me. She's an incredible woman, the nicest person I probably ever met in my life. So that was, on the personal side. And if I wanted to jump to the
what a crazy story, dude.
Yeah, the cherry on top of all of that is she was from my hometown on Long Island. We did not know each other. Nobody ever thought to set us up. And ultimately, when we told our parents that we were dating, our parents both had known each other from just being from the same town and running in the same groups of friends. And now when we bump into so many people when we're out on Long Island, when we're in New York City that know both of us, they're just kind of, I guess the ones that have not seen us in a while are shocked that like we ended up together. It's kind of so funny. So yeah, it's just crazy. Life works in weird ways, and I'm in that camp of like what's meant to be is meant to be, as cliche as that sounds. So yeah.
It's amazing to hear the synchronicity, but more so the lesson that I think everybody listening to this episode can attest to is like, take the risk, do something uncomfortable. You know, you clearly are like, okay, you know, I've never done this matchmaker thing, and you know, why is this happening? And it's happening now. So, you know,
Yeah.
like let's test this out. Let's try it. And you didn't quit after the first one. You kept
No.
going, and just right over the corner was the love of your life, you know, and
Exactly. Yeah.
literally right around the corner in the
Literally.
neighborhood.
Yeah, literally. And I was like, I just, you know, you just kind of know. I guess people say you know when you know, and I didn't know after the first or second date, but by the fifth or sixth date, I was like, yeah, this one is somebody special, and it's just you waited a long time. I had friends that married when they were 23 and 24, and I met my now wife when I was 35, and you know, you just kind of go at your own pace and your own speed, and you don't put yourself up against other people, and let things kind of work themselves out.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's so cool to hear the life side of it, because not only does it make sense with relationships and connections and people, but also the business side, right? Like it's the
Yeah.
same lesson that can flow back and forth. It's like, keep doing the thing that you want to do, keep testing, keep taking risks, keep trying new things. And in a lot of business cases, that's called what? Pivoting, transformation,
Yep.
realignment, right? And like, you not only did that in your personal life, but I'm sure some of those lessons came through on the business side as well. You know,
Yeah.
where did you learn that? Like, where did you learn to kind of just step into some of those things?
I found myself in this career that I had zero plans on being in, especially in college. And I think it was just like, it was supposed to be Brian Rappaport, NBA play-by-play announcer, and then Brian Rappaport, like publicist for Madison Square Garden, or Brian Rappaport, head of marketing for the New York Knicks. And that did not work out. And I ended up in a global advertising agency working in print buying, which is essentially like buying ads in newspapers for Verizon Fios, which doesn't sound that glamorous or fun. But when you work in the ad agency world, it is fun. It is fun. You work with, you know, on big teams, and there's a lot of fun perks, and you get taken out to lunches, and you get to go to sports games and concerts. You know, but when you don't envision yourself in a role like that, it's kind of hard to get comfortable. And I'm just a competitive person. I play pickup basketball, and I'm 42 years old. I play 3 days a week. I am not good, but I know what my strengths are and try my best to lean into them and make myself still useful in the same gym I've been playing in for 10 years. But when I realized that like that job in an ad agency, buying print ads, was going to probably be what I would be doing for a prolonged period of time, I said, well, let me be the best at it. Let me put myself in a position to really stand out and build relationships with these ad sales reps and look good for my boss, who is still one of my close friends to this day. And you know, ultimately like become someone that couldn't be ignored by leadership and management of a 500, 600, 700 person global ad agency. They're not going to care about an assistant print negotiator or a print negotiator. But fortunately, after 7 years at my first agency, like I put myself in a position where like, yes, at least I was known. And I think I did a pretty damn good job there before like the second part of my career, which really was kind of crazy. Yeah.
Tell me more about that, man. How did you transition out of that part?
Yeah, I mean, this is the second impactful moment of my life, and it's the professional side. I mean, look, I worked in print advertising, and you kind of become a Swiss Army knife in an ad agency, and they needed me to do a few different things, and ultimately, it led me to what is known as out of home. Outdoor advertising is the ads you see everywhere, on buses, on billboards, on walls, in airports, like everything outside the home. And I fell in love with that channel because it was so creative and visual, and you kind of see your work out in the open, and it was a lot, for me, it was a lot more rewarding and fun than the print thing. And when I decided to chase that full time, I found myself at my second agency that was solely devoted to out of home. And, you know, I was responsible for working on some great brands, JetBlue, Royal Caribbean, Shinola, these like really fun global brands. But that was it, like just working on these brands day in and day out. And I was on a subway with my boss, and I just remember looking up and seeing all of these colorful cartoon style ads for the mattress brand Casper. It was 2015. It was like a direct to consumer boom, and you couldn't miss them. And I was like, this brand is awesome. I wonder who was handling their outdoor advertising. And in my world, you kind of know what agency has what brand. And my boss was like, why don't you call them up, find out? And I had not known that was possible. I was like, I could just do that. I can call the CEO. And he's like, yeah, do it. I went from a big global ad agency to a much smaller group. So it's like, all right, I wasn't in biz dev. I wasn't responsible for bringing in new brands, but I said, whatever. And I found the CEO of Casper at the time. His name is Philip Krim, super successful. Casper was maybe 50 to 75 people. Sent him a cold email. Hey, who's doing your outdoor advertising? Would love to talk to you. Love your Subway ads. And before I knew it, I was in a room with him, having a meeting, explaining to him why he needs somebody that actually knows the space, knows the channel, to help them scale as they became a larger brand. And we had a great conversation, went back to my desk, and the next day I had an email from him. Hey, Brian, loved meeting you. How do we work together? And I freaked out. I was like, oh my God, I had been at my new agency 4 months. I just brought in a new piece of business, and I started handling all of Casper's outdoor advertising on the side, as in addition to doing my quote unquote day job. And when you get that taste of victory and you win, you're like, okay, so I have Casper. Let me try this again. And I emailed FanDuel, and short version, I didn't win them. But then I started emailing Daily Harvest, and I started emailing Things and Third Love and all of these cool direct-to-consumer brands, Eat24, which ended up getting acquired by Grubhub, and Uber, which was still not the global behemoth that it is now. And in 4 years at my second agency, I brought in about 30 direct brands that I was working on the side, doing my day job incredibly well. And it's not being cocky, it's just facts. Like I said, bad basketball player, good at out of home. And that moment, reaching out to Casper, sending that email, bringing them in-house, realizing that like I can build a network, I could work with brands directly. That was the life-changing professional moment, because after that, it was like, let's bring in all of these direct brands, build up your own direct client roster. And that ultimately led me to starting my own business, which I had zero plans ever in my life of doing.
Dude, what a crazy story. It's so cool. And I want the listeners to focus on this piece of Brian's story. And, you know, his evolution is, you know, he tried something, it worked, but then he went to the next company and it didn't work, but he kept going. And that momentum carries through. And it's not that he just hit a home run out of the park every single swing, but what if he gave up after that second proposal, that second pitch? He wouldn't have pushed through to where he's at today with all these massive brands and owning his own company, right? Like when he talked about his personal life and, you know, meeting his wife and trying something new and taking the risk, as I'm hearing you tell your business journey and the story, it's consistent and consecutive throughout. You know,
Yeah.
You gotta take the swing. You gotta try to do the thing. And that rhymed, by the way. Did not
I love it.
that. But it's true, you know. And when you didn't get that second one, what did you feel like? Did that crush you? Did you just have to give yourself some self-talk? Like, were you like, oh, no big deal, let's just take another at bat? Like, bring us back to that moment, because if you didn't keep going, this could have been completely different. I mean, you could be in a different seat today. You know,
I'd be in the global ad age holding company world, which is what it is, making a set salary and probably happy, but not what I would, nowhere near as excited as I am today to like wake up every day and do what I'm doing. I was in the vestibule of an Amtrak train when the FanDuel client called me and told me that we were in the finals, but lost out to another agency. And yeah, obviously you're disappointed. I'm a massive sports fan, would have been a cool brand. But what I remember is him telling me, we loved you guys. We loved what you had to say. It was very close. We loved the pitch. We loved the agency. You know, I'm not saying no down the road. And that kind of carries you. I'm an eternal optimist. So I will look for the good in any bad situation. So as upset as I was like, okay, well, that did not work out. So let's now go ahead and try to get another one. And this happens even today. This happens, you know, there's a brand that I think we're the perfect fit for, and maybe I send a cold email and I don't hear back, or maybe we're working on a pitch against 2 or 3 other agencies, and you know, we don't win it, or we don't win the brand, or one of our brands that we've done great work for gets up and goes to a global holding company that there's nothing I can do to change that. It's so much more than just outdoor advertising. They're getting a lot more from this global holding company, and I will be upset for an hour. but usually that's followed by something good happening, or at least something that good that I can find happening. And I always say 2 years ago, we lost 2 of our top 3 spending clients. Nothing we did wrong. Both went to global holding companies. So I could swallow that. I can't do anything there. We far surpassed our billing that following year from the year before, after losing 2 of our top 3 clients. Like, it's just, you kind of got to roll with the punches. If you get down, you woe is me, like, it's not going to be good. And this is in life too. This is after a bad date. This is after issues with fertility, which I could speak on. Like, if you let that like drag you down, it's only going to have lasting effects. The same way that if you celebrate a victory for too long, it's going to distract you from like getting back to like, you know, what you really got to get back to.
Man, what a powerful share, you know, being that internal optimist and carrying that through in all facets of life, you know. And someone had said to me, like, you can have a pity party for 5 minutes, but then you got to get back on the horse, right? Like, feel through the emotion, realize, okay, that sucked. That just sucked. Like, I really was excited. It sucked. But then what's the next couple steps you're going to take, right? Are they backwards? Are they lateral, or are they forward? And I love what you said, like, looking for the positive, looking for the next thing that's going to, you know, excite you or move you forward. It's so important in those times, because to wallow on it and to sit in it forever, or to get frustrated and go, you know, drink your sorrows away with the bottle, or whatever you do, is that really the best use of time? And I'm not saying skip over the emotion, right? We got to feel it. We got to just sit in it, because we don't want to deflect it. It's got to go through us. It's real. It's happening to us. We're human. We're human, right? But where do you think that optimism came from? Like, is that something your parents taught you? Is that something that you had some mentors that you just observed and worked with? You know, because a lot of people that I've spent time with, whether they're successful, whether they're struggling, whether, you know, they are having stuff going on in their personal or business, they struggle with this piece of it. They struggle with seeing the light and consistently just focusing on the dark. Where do you think you learned that, or where did that come from, you know, in your journey?
I mean, I don't know. I would say that I was surrounded, fortunately, growing up by like a very, very, very loving family. And unfortunately, my parents had a really horrible divorce. And any parents that go through a divorce, it's like bad. But, you know, some are like nice, and, you know, they co-parent and everyone gets along. And it just was not like that. And my father, you know, is a great man. And always, and I would say like the happiness and the happy-go-lucky attitude comes from him. He always, family love is very big to him and still is to this day. But he had his own personal demons. And unfortunately, it really led to my mom essentially raising me and my brothers, you know, for the most part alone for a stretch of 10 years. And my mom like suffered, like slept on a couch in an apartment, gave me and my brothers each our own bedroom, worked crazy hours at a job she knew nothing about to make any amount of money that she could to kind of give us a life. And still was like, was there, was very present, and had such a great mentality about it. Definitely had periods of like sorrow, and there was crying and there was frustration. But when you see somebody go through that for like not 1 year or 2 years, but like really a good, I don't know, 7 to 10 years, it's kind of like, you know, I don't think much about it now, because fortunately she's remarried and has an incredible life and a fantastic husband who's like a father to me, and same for my dad. But, you know, I think when you see somebody go through something like that and struggle, it's kind of hard to like, you know, you want health, and you want a good family, and you want ultimately a good job. And like, for me, if I have those things, I think it's kind of hard to like not be optimistic. It's like you have to find the good. Like, even, I don't know, I would always, it's a bad, I try to say this sensitively, because I'm sure it was horrible for a lot of people, but like the pandemic and COVID, like, you know, I'm sure was a horrible time. It was for a lot of people. And like, even throughout that all, I was like, you know, yes, you have to kind of deal with it. It's here, it's now, but it's not going to be here forever. And people lost jobs, and people lost family, and people, you know, lost people meaningful to them. But like, you kind of have to, like, I was saying to one of my brothers, I'm like, there's nothing that we can do about this. Literally nothing we can do about this. So like, let's try and make the best of this, and know that this is not going to last forever. And every little bit of good news during the pandemic, whether it's like a vaccine may be close, or something's reopening, or there's outdoor dining, like, I don't know, I'd kind of like, you know, repost it on Twitter, and I remember just like sharing it with friends and tweeting and like texting it. And like, So it's just like a microcosm of how I am as a human being, just trying to find the good in things.
I love how you said you shared it and you texted it and you posted about those little wins throughout the pandemic, right? Because not only were you doing it internally for yourself and had the awareness and the recognition of looking for the optimistic approach, but you also shared that with other people. And I
Yeah.
think that's so powerful because there is a ripple effect to that, right? And if you are gifted through what you went through and how, your parents navigated their struggle, or, and was always optimistic, and you got that gift and that lesson, and now you can give it to others in some of those hard times, like I think it's, repaying it forward in a way, but you're probably were doing it just subconsciously because you were so in line with that internal optimism, right? And it's great to hear that. And, I'm similar to you when it comes to the pandemic and the COVID stuff. I lost a business, but I said that it wasn't going to defeat me. And it was a
Right.
lesson, and I needed to learn from it. And I didn't want to wait around. I wanted to move through it, and I wanted to build something new. And yeah, it was tough. It was hard. And, you didn't know what was going to happen, but I didn't stay stagnant, and I pivoted and I transformed, and it was the best looking back on it. But in those moments, it was hard. It was, is this the right decision? Am I throwing something away I built for a year and a half that was extremely successful? And now I look back on it and I'm like, that, I just kept moving. I kept trying to find the next thing to keep me in a good mindset,
Yeah.
and it's so important. And I love that's your outlook as well.
I had started my business 5 months before the pandemic, and I was just hitting my stride when that happened. And yeah, I mean, I would say it's hard to sell or to get brands to invest in outdoor advertising when you're being told to stay inside. And the whole thing being in the tight-knit industry is that, like, I knew all of my competitors and friends and other fellow agencies were just staying inside, not really working. They were laughing. It was like, okay, I'm going to stay at home, and like when things reopen, we'll get back to talking to clients. And I moved down to my in-laws' house in Florida for 3.5 months. It was indefinite, but it ended up being 3.5 months. And I could have went and sat outside by the pool and been like, okay, when things open up, I'll get back to work. But every morning I would put on jeans, put on a polo, go into an empty bedroom, set up my laptop, and do everything from building out newsletters, highlighting foot traffic patterns, to working with media operators to get access to inventory at like 90% off because they were taking any revenue at that time to sell a billboard. And I was literally working with brands, and some brands were doing it. They're like, why not? We'll buy this billboard for 90% off. Like, people are still outside. And the brands that weren't ready were like, look, when things get better, we're going to come and work with you. Like, we're excited about this channel. We're excited about outdoor advertising. And I felt very rewarded by doing this. And then sure enough, when January, February 21 rolled around, like an influx of brands kind of like, it was like the gates opened. They all came in. They were like, all right, we're ready to go. We're ready to like launch our brand campaign. We're ready to launch our We're Back campaign. And it was like, it really paid off. It was kind of like I could sit there and be stagnant and do nothing and let my business just not grow, or I can kind of like just get myself in the best position possible to really excel once things somewhat return to normal. And fortunately, that's like what I did.
It's you kept moving, man. You kept navigating through and continued those things that you knew made you successful, whether you're working for someone else, working for yourself before the pandemic, right? And I think that's so important, that movement. You created that momentum. You did the things that other people weren't doing. One question I have for you, because you're very intelligent, you've got a lot of great energy. We've had, several great conversations. I'm really excited about doing this with you and continuing our relationship. Did you have mentors along the way in business? Did you just kind of learn as you go? Like, how did you get to the top tier level of doing what you're doing and having such a great positive mindset? Like, was there anybody in your life that guided you or coached you, or is this just something that you naturally kept trying and doing and moving and keeping that momentum?
I don't think that I sought out mentors, right? Like, it's not like I had my old college professor that I called every day and that helped me. And like, but I think I was fortunate to accidentally run into mentors, right? Like my first boss when I was buying print advertising, like if he wasn't as warm and like just just flat out fun to work for, I probably would be way out of this industry. But he also did cultivate like my work ethic. And then, my last boss at my first agency was now one of my closest friends also. Like he's one of the best public speakers I've ever seen. He, the way he interacted with clients, the way he kind of managed a team, like to this day, like I'm still very close with him. And just watching that, working for him, like my whole mantra is, if you're friends with your boss, you never want to put them in an uncomfortable position where they have to yell at you, where they're upset with your work. So that's why I would always bust my ass, because then when we would go out after work or we would spend time personally together, it was never like, you feel awkward doing this because I'm so bad at my job. It's like, all right, you make this easy for me. We could be friends. And then I kind of understood how to straddle that line. And then the boss of my second agency, who's also a good friend, just built that agency from small team of 8-9 people in a holding company to what it is today, which is pretty incredible. So, I mean, all of these little mentors, and someone in my industry who created his own independent agency and sold it down the road, like I kind of have bumped into all of these amazing individuals at the right time, and asked the questions and had the coffees and had the breakfasts and observed them and saw how they managed or led or spoke and what they've done in their careers, and have just kind of kept to myself like what I felt I should emulate and build on. So I wouldn't say I went out there and like I have this one mentor who's incredible, but I think like the people that you come across in your life, you find the ones that really stand out and are amazing. My father-in-law founded a business and built it up and did incredible with it and sold it. And we talk about business all the time when we're together and what worked for him and what didn't. And he fortunately is an incredibly successful human being. And like, I'm so lucky to have him in my life because A, he's an amazing father-in-law, but B, on the business side, like I can pick his brain and understood what worked and what didn't work and what he did right and what he did wrong. Unfortunately, he did a lot more right than he did wrong. So it's good.
It's great to hear the level that you focus on around the detail and to take the nuggets, like what was good, what was bad, having that curiosity, like I could think of some people in my life right now where I probably need to have those conversations. And sometimes we're moving so fast and we don't even realize that there's some people out there that can teach you, whether it's something micro or niched or something that's larger, whether it's around growth or just strategy, like, and I would, push some of our listeners, who are tuning in right now to this episode to take a second, take a beat, take a minute and think about who's in your life right now that maybe you can ask some of these questions to. Yeah. It doesn't need to be the next business coach or the next keynote, speaker on stage that you need to build a new relationship with. Who are the people that you have a relationship with? And the question to you is, the listeners, have you asked them some of these questions? What would you advise me right now, knowing what you know about me? What's some things that you tried that didn't work? What's some things that will work? What should I keep doing? What should I stop doing? Right? Like having that genuine compassion around curiosity. Sometimes we just forget about who's in our circle, who's in our life today that can help and can be a great resource for us. I think we're always being pitched something or sold something, and that's the way of the world in business. I'm not negating or saying that's bad, but maybe we just need to look around and, look left and right and see who's in our court today. Right.
Yep. You got to, it's not going to be right in front of you. It's not, no one's wearing a sign on their shirt that says, I'm your mentor. You have to go out there. And it could be literally someone that you worked with at a pizzeria. It could be someone you worked with at sleepaway camp. Like, it doesn't really matter. But they're out there. You just kind of you have to find them.
Totally. Dude, so every time we've chatted, you're running a big business, doing some travel, you've got the family, you always have a ton of energy, right? It's something I've noticed about you. Why do you think you have that energy? And it's natural. Like, you're not putting on a performance. You're not hyperactive. You're not trying to be aggressive, to be an alpha in a conversation. Like, that's not how you are. But why do you think you have that natural energy? Like, what's driving that underneath the layer of Brian?
Honestly, I love life. I think it's as simple as that. But if you really want to like dig deep, and I love having this conversation because I feel like when I've spoken to people before, been on podcasts, it's always much more focused on business and Quan and out of home. And I think this question never really comes up. And I think I'm not going to make myself like sound like some poor kid from the other side of the tracks, but I grew up not having a lot of money in a very difficult situation, but again, very fortunate to have an amazing family, which is really what matters, and health. So to be in the position that I'm in today, where I'm running a business that fortunately, as of today, is doing very well, and to have an amazing wife and to have 2 children and to have my family beside me and to have a really good group of friends, I don't take that lightly. Like, I just don't take, like, you shouldn't, and I'm not scared that like it'll all go away tomorrow, but you live with that in the back of your mind. Like, is this too good to be true? So every minute of every day, it's kind of like, I'm just so excited for what's next. Tonight, that is going to a Knick playoff game in Madison Square Garden, but tomorrow it could be having lunch with one of my favorite media partners, and I'm excited to just spend an hour with them. And I think if you keep finding these nuggets, you know, throughout the course of your life and throughout the course of your week and the months ahead, like it's hard to not be excited. But for me, it ultimately stems for like what I have right now and what I have today, and not wanting it to go away. And also at the same time, not having had it for so long. It's an ongoing joke with one of my college friends that we were out when we were in college. We were visiting another university, and somebody asked me, I'm not even lying, for 75 cents. We were at Dunkin' Donuts. And I told them no. I just said no. And I wasn't being difficult or greedy or stingy. I literally didn't have it. Like, I needed that 75 cents. It's a joke now. Like, I still joke about it with one of my best friends from college. I wanted to give it to him. I just did not have that money. I needed every penny. And now, like, I just want to do whatever I can do for my friends. If you come over to me and my wife's house, like for brunch, we are having the biggest spread of bagels ever. If you come watch Super Bowl, you are going to leave with bags of food because we're always going to over order. And it's not about showing off, and it's not about being, you know, being flashy. It's about just like wanting to do so much for other people, because for so long I couldn't. So I think that's why I have so much energy. It's like, oftentimes with the whole be excited for a short amount of time, be upset for a short amount of time, I have these bursts of euphoria. Maybe I'm by myself, maybe I'm in the gym. I don't really know when it happens. It just happens. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm just like so excited. I'm excited about this new brand that I just won. I'm excited about this vacation that I'm about to go on. I'm excited about like this meeting that I have next week. Those are the best feelings. At the same time, sometimes it's a Monday morning, sometimes it's coming back after Labor Day weekend, and you have the same, you know, you just don't know when it's going to come, and you're like, you have those bouts of like, oh, I'm like in a rut, and you kind of get out of it. But mostly I think that's where my energy comes, is just being appreciative of what I have today, and like having not had it for so many years in my life.
Yeah, man, you have the gratitude, you know, you want to help, you want to serve, you want to give.
Yeah,
I totally get it, man. I totally get it. And it's real. It's true, you know, and I think that's the thing that's so powerful. And, you know, what you're saying is like, there's depth to the days that you didn't have it. There's depth to that, you know, it could all go away. So why not live in it? Why not enjoy it? Why not give?
yeah.
Right. It's not about, hey, let's show off because you're going to leave with all this food. It's,
Right.
I genuinely want to give to you. So that enjoyment at the Super Bowl party doesn't end. You can take it home with you, right? You can eat that food up tomorrow.
I want other people to be happy. I get off on people's like excitement and gratitude, and that could be, you know, there could be a celebrity that I bumped into, and you know, and maybe there's I run into a free billboard, right? I don't know. There's no rhyme or reason, and I'm talking to, and it's not because they're a celebrity. I've met somebody that founded a brand. It just, my network has become very strange over the past few years in a good way. And like, it's funny when a celeb knows, or an athlete, no matter how famous they are on a billboard, they're in Times Square, you see that, like, they freak out. It doesn't matter what movies they've been in, what games they've played in, they freak out. And, you know, if I'm able to do that and grant them, you know, free billboard, which, silly as it sounds, is like very exciting to them, to see them post about it on social, to see how excited they get when they see it, like all of that good stuff. I don't want anything out of that. I don't need their business. I don't want their business. I mean, obviously it's nice to have it, but there's no caveats. There's no ulterior motives. It's genuinely, all right, I want to see what their reaction is going to be when they see themselves like out there. And it's kind of also like that's the professional side, but it's a microcosm for how I live my personal life. You know, I just want other people to genuinely be happy when they're around me. It's part of, also, it's a flaw because it's being a people pleaser, and I have issues when people don't like me. And, you know, I very rarely in my head, like, does this person like me, or do they not want to be around me? But like, obviously you can tell by my persona that that is very fleeting, and that tends to go away. So yeah, that's really
You're a
it there.
human, man. You're a human,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's I mean, how cool is it to see yourself on a billboard? Like,
Yeah.
I don't care who you are, what level of status, success, like you get to
No,
serve
it's
that, man. Like
it's amazing. We
it's
just did
fun.
some amazing work for Emma Greed, who's a fantastic entrepreneur, founder of Skims, founder of Good American, New York Times bestselling author. And she just spoke at our industry's annual conference. I got to introduce her, and I've gotten to actually know her relatively well over the past 2 months. Again, by shooting my shot and also kind of by accident, but like she was on a ton of outdoor space to promote her new book, and like her Instagram feed for a very long time was like, yes, the book and her incredible inspiring content, but also like her in Times Square and her in Sunset Boulevard. And like, this is this world famous entrepreneur, self-made human being, and she's so excited to like see herself out there. And when I spoke to her last week, it was the same thing. It was like, this was like so amazing and so surreal. So yeah, I mean, it's, who doesn't,
Super cool,
Yeah.
man. All right, as we wrap up, Brian, and I know you're a busy man, so thank you for your time today. But as I was thinking this through, the celebrities, the people that you worked with, the brands, what is one moment in your business or with a brand or with someone that comes to mind for you that you enjoyed? Right? You talked about that woman, your excitement around putting her on the billboards and seeing her. But is there any moment in your business, whether it's a celebrity or a brand or a team, or that just excites you? One experience, one moment that you can kind of recall, that first thing that comes to your mind?
Yeah, I don't know. We work on so many incredibly amazing brands. And I'm not just saying that because it's such a cliche line, but we really do. And it's been 6.5 years. So it's hard to pinpoint one. I guess from like the more norm day to day, building out curated out of home, recommendations. I think like helping launch after they were dormant for so many years, Gemini, the cryptocurrency platform, the Winklevoss twins' a crypto platform. Like they had taken a break from out of home for maybe 4 or 5 years, and I was introduced to them in the fall of 24. And they really were planning a major multi-country out of home campaign, and gave us the opportunity to do that and to help bring that to life across 4 US markets, 1 international market, multiple creatives over the course of 4 months. See how excited both Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss were, the whole marketing team at Gemini, who I've now become good friends with. Like, that stays with me. Like, it just was like, they gave us an opportunity. They were so incredibly happy with how it turned out. We measured it. It did very well. That stays with me. And like, we've worked on amazing brands, like HubSpot's another one. And we just do so much with them, and like Olipop, helping them, show up in the real world for the first time that they really invested in out of home. So yeah, I would say like that Gemini campaign for me really, it stays with me to this day. I'm really proud of it. I don't want to say the fun one because Gemini was fun, but like the celeb athlete one, like I've gotten to know or become friendly. I don't want to overstate. Carl Anthony Towns' agent, who's amazing, and Jalen Brunson's agent, just throughout my network. And Kat, when he was in the Minnesota Timberwolves, wanted to surprise his now fiance Jordan Woods with a board in Times Square. She's a fashion designer. She runs a clothing company during New York Fashion Week a few years ago, and his agent reached out to me and was like, "Can you get a few boards that make sense for Kat?" Long story short, sent over a bunch of options. It was very selective, and they settled on 2. And he was going to take her to Times Square to see it without her knowing she was seeing it. And I kind of was like, I'll be there just to make sure things go well, which was my way of saying like, I just want to meet Kat as an NBA fan, pre-Knicks. Got there a little early, met Jordan's publicist, super nice. The creative was on 2 of the biggest screens in Times Square, kind of amazing. And all of a sudden, this big Jeep pulls up, and you see Carl Anthony Towns get out. He's 7 feet tall. Jordan Woods get out, and she literally had no idea what she was walking into. She sees herself on 2 of the biggest screens in Times Square, and like literally starts like shaking and crying. She's with her mom. She's just blown away. She's with her team. She's taking photos, and I'm just like standing in the back, like really genuinely enjoying watching this. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna get out of here. Like, I was not gonna go and get a selfie. Normally, maybe I would, but I was like, I'm gonna get out of here. And Kat's, or I should say, Jordan Woods' publicist was like, "Where's Brian?" And I was like, "Here." And he's like, "Come over here." And he's like, "This guy made this all happen." And Jordan Woods gave me a big hug and was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Thank you so much. And Carl Anthony Towns gave me a hug and was like, dude, this means so much. And then Jordan Woods' mom was like, thank you for making my daughter's dreams come true. And then I was like joking with Kat and I was like, hey, dude, you know, hopefully see you in New York one of these days, which now he's getting ready to play in the Eastern Conference Finals. So I don't know, that was like genuine celeb excitement / mixing like my love for the NBA and sports and like making someone's day. And, you know, yes, I got a picture with Kat, but like more so just like watching Jordan Woods. I can't believe she's like on One Times Square. And that was like one of the cooler, it stays with me to this day. It's even better now that he's on literally my favorite sporting team ever. So yeah, you know, a little bit of both, but fortunately, we do a lot of cool stuff.
Man.
Yeah.
That's so cool because not only did you get to create a moment of impact, but you were also impacted and everybody had a great time through the process. And you did it out of wanting to serve, and you were served back by getting to meet them and getting the photo and all that. So what a great story, man. And
do some work with them, and it's great. And every once in a while, like, yeah, I mean, we'll get a phone call and, hey, like, do you have anything for Jordan here? And like, you know, it's not even about, again, transactional. It's more like just people that appreciate it, that are, she's a self-made person, right? She started her own business. It's kind of great. She just so happens to be, you know, an iconic fashion designer, and her fiance is an NBA All-Star. So it's another day. It's no different than working, you know, with the amazing Peter Rahal, who founded David Protein Bar and who also founded RX Bar. Like, it's the same thing. It's just, you build a network of amazing individuals that are in your orbit. And one day you're talking to one of them, and the next day you're talking to another one, and you never know who's going to call you on the phone. I had a voicemail from Ja Rule 5 years ago. It was so weird. It's just, I tell people I live a very odd life, but it's super fun, and I love it, and I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. And it's just like, if you don't know what you're doing when you're 22, and you don't know what you're doing when you're 32, again, you don't have to be on a timeline. Like, just figure it out. Let yourself like kind of like go through the motions, and don't get yourself too down, and like you'll find yourself in a role that you're, you know, happy in, hopefully.
Man, what a great episode, Brian. I appreciate you being on the Impact Effect podcast and giving us some of your time today. And I'm excited for the listeners to have this opportunity to hear your journey, the lessons, your impactful moments. And thank you again for being here.
No, thanks for having me, Jim. This was amazing.